Hey, this is Bobby, and welcome to another little quick episode of My Stupid Little Life, which honestly, I think I need to find a new title for my podcast because I don't think it's doing me any favors in the subscription department. I don't think people are coming across the title and finding it as clever as I did when I made it. But anyway, this is just going to be a little update to a case that I talked to you guys about back around Thanksgiving. It happened around Thanksgiving. I don't remember exactly when I recorded, but we have a little bit of an update as far as the outcome. So, the case I'm talking about, in case you didn't listen to the other one, I'm not going to go through all the details because I just mentally can't. It's too much. Even now, I'm still kind of dealing with some stuff from it. My doctor called it a delayed stress reaction. So, just going to leave it at that. But the quick explanation is that a drunk asshole with a suspended license crashed his girlfriend's car into a canal. His two kids were in the back. Now, instead of doing what, any normal father slash adult slash decent human being would do, he and his girlfriend swam to shore instead of trying to save the kids. And when they swam to shore, they made up a story about getting carjacked at a local convenience store. Now, obviously, you know, we checked the tapes. Everything was clear. There was no carjacking. It was completely made up. Now, meanwhile, while these two assholes were swimming to shore and coming up with their stupid-ass story, a random stranger who heard the crash from his house jumped in and tried to save the kids until police and fire and EMS arrived on scene, and then they took over. So this guy, Tyler Ravert, complete hero in my book, risked his own life to try to save these two kids who unfortunately did drown in the vehicle, while the father and his girlfriend sat on the shore and did nothing and then eventually disappeared, only to walk up and pretend that, they had been carjacked and feed the officers a line of shit. So Kent Lawson was the dad. At this time, he's still in jail waiting on a trial date. He's a piece of shit, and hopefully he stays in jail and, maybe some justice will be done to him by inmates, if we're lucky. Julia Drudy, his girlfriend. So this winter was only sentenced to 60 days of incarceration after accepting a plea deal. And most of that was already time served. So as of January 15th, she had 17 days left in her incarceration. She was charged with permitting an unauthorized person to drive her car, for letting Lawson, whose license was suspended and who had been drinking, drive her car. Her license will be suspended for a year. That's kind of a slap on the wrist to me. I feel like she definitely deserved more, and maybe an accessory to manslaughter. I don't know. I don't know the law as well as maybe I should. And I get that they were trying to charge them with things that would stick, and you don't want them to get off on a technicality, and there's all kinds of things that go into it that I'm not privy to, but it just pisses me off the way the justice system works, or in this case kind of fails to work to make these people, or whatever you want to call them, pay for ending the lives of these two young boys. Again, Lawson has yet to have a trial date set. He's still in jail, and hopefully something happens to him. It drives me crazy knowing that this guy's probably not going to get what he's got coming to him. Drudy didn't. Hopefully they can figure out some other way to get her on charges that'll stick, and make sure that, she's not just out living it up. But that's not typically how things work with this stuff. Reminds me of the case of a relative of some of my high school friends who was killed by a drunk driver. Her name was Dina Ekman, and hopefully I didn't mispronounce the first name. But she was killed by a drunk driver in 2019, and this particular driver had been convicted of DUI 5 times. before this incident. Still managed to make it back out on the road for his sixth, and that unfortunately cost her life. And then to add insult to the Ekman family's loss, they had to watch as Pennsylvania lawmakers were trying to pass a law called Dina's Law, and that law would have increased the penalties for first-time offenders and subsequent offenders, and it would have required first-time offenders to have the breathalyzer in their car, and might keep people from repeat offending and from going out and killing people. And so while this law was being voted on, these geniuses decided that, in the Pennsylvania legislature, decided that they would try and tackle on the passing of a medical marijuana bill with this bill. They figured, hey, this is going to pass. It's going to be a slam dunk. Let's add this to it, and we'll kill two birds with one stone. But the problem is that's not how it ever works. It's never as easy as it seems it's going to be. And what ended up happening is, because they tacked this medical marijuana bill onto a bill that was bipartisan and largely had support and should have passed, it did not pass. So now, instead of having a good law on the books that would help protect the people of Pennsylvania, it's not there because the politicians had to try to get more. They couldn't just vote on the issue at hand. They had to try and be slick and take advantage of the situation while not completely understanding the consequences of what would happen. No, passing the law wasn't going to bring her back, but it might have helped keep another family from having to suffer the way that the Ekman family has had to suffer. And by going and screwing around and trying to get this other bill passed with it, they've failed the people of Pennsylvania. They've failed the Ekman family. They've failed everyone. And that's what makes me sick about this whole situation. I completely agree with medical marijuana. I think it's something that is long since due. It should be passed. Hell, as a matter of fact, I'm all for regulation and sale of marijuana just to everybody. Legalize it at this point. It's no worse than beer. Let it happen. That's the way we're going anyway. Let it happen. But there was no need to try and put this bill in with Dina's Law. Shouldn't have happened. Pass one, then worry about the other. By trying to push the envelope and trying to push this bill through with Dina's Law, you made them both fail. And now, in the meantime, anybody who's killed by a repeat offender DUI that could have been saved because of the restrictions put in place with Dina's Law, that's on your heads. And it's not right. And that's where a lot of our politicians really need to look at themselves in the mirror and try and figure out what they want to do and what they want to be. Because, let's face it, politicians in this country have lost their way. And that's not a Democrat statement. That's not a Republican statement. That's not a modern Whig Party or a Libertarian statement. I think that's something that, we can all agree on. And until they get their heads out of their asses and start working for the people again, we're in for a world of trouble. But I'm not going to get on my political soapbox today. That's not something I want to do on this podcast. This is supposed to be something that's fun and distracting. So that's where I'm going to end this episode. I'll be recording again tonight with Tom Walker. We'll be doing we're going to go down memory lane with our top 10 favorite sports games of all time. Now, I had a hard time cutting it down to 10, so I had to do some honorable mentions, but The cool thing is we haven't told each other about our lists. So we don't know what the other's going to talk about. But it should be an interesting episode. It should be fun, not depressing like this. So make sure you tune in, and thank you for listening.